Dr. Z, do you ever get scared of being on our show?
Sometimes I do.
Honestly, if we crank up this music loud enough, at what point do we get scared? Let me turn it up a little bit more here. Let me just see what happens.
Okay, that did it for me. I'm
No,
scared.
seriously, do you ever get scared?
Yes, I it's a temporary thing. It's something like, I may be outdoors in a dark area and I hear a noise. You're just more startled probably than scared,
Andrew, do you ever get scared to be on this show?
Yeah. There's some big guests we've had on.
I'm serious. Do you ever get scared?
Yeah, there's some big guests we have on.
Well, if we listened to this music as our soundtrack for life, we would be freaked out all the time.
That's why I don't watch scary movies.
Right.
But I'm saying this because today's show, we're going to have an author on the show who's going to talk to us about how to live a life without fear, which is great. But I think a lot of people are
not listening to that music. Huh?
I think a lot of people are filling their minds with this kind of music.
Well, that's why
they're reading these kind of books.
Yeah,
they're reading that. They're reading.
Fear is gripping the world right now.
They're reading. They're watching CNN all the time. Chris, super scary Cuomo gets up there. They're watching tonight on the news. COVID-19 kills its first 72-year-old man who was exactly 72 years old on the 3rd of August. The first man who turned 72 on the 3rd of August has died from COVID-19. Tomorrow, the first 97-year-old man who turned 97 on August 14th died of COVID-19. Tomorrow, Antifa, are they in your pants? I mean, there's all these.
I know. I know.
You can freak yourself out. But on today's show, Steve Gutzler joins us to talk about how to lead with no fear. Your 90-day leader shift from worry, insecurity, and doubt to inspiration, clarity, and confidence.
That's needed right now.
Woo!
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, we are in the air everywhere. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about how to lead with no fear. Today's show is going to be so informative, so powerful, so transformative. I really do believe it's almost scary. Steve, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, Clay. Honored to be with you.
Well, okay, let's talk about this for a second. What inspired you to become a guru of how to lead without fear? What does that even mean?
Well, I was in a Woods Copy right when I got a shelter-in-place order by our governor, and we had been talking about writing this book, Lead Without Fear. And I said, man, what better time to do it than right now? So the inspiration really was COVID, and just we actually wrote and published the book in 90 days. It's a lot of content that's been lived out in my own life and the life of a lot of my clients for nearly 2 decades now.
And when you say a lot of your clients, what exactly do you do? Are you a Ponzi scheme manager? Are you a captain of a ship? For the people out there that don't know, what do you do, or what kind of clients do you have?
I've got awesome clients. I've got the Seattle Seahawks, Microsoft, Spotify, LinkedIn, Ritz-Carlton, some of the great brands across the U.S. I do primarily keynote speaking in the space of emotional intelligence and transformational leadership. So I help leaders transition from kind of that mindset that their IQ, technical, tactical skill sets will get them to the next level, to show them that it's really about self-awareness, regulating emotions when you're under stress, and how to build emotional connections with those that you lead. So the keynote speaking really is the foundation. And then just through my relationships, I connect with a lot of senior leaders that need executive coaching around those very topics.
You know, when you told me that you were the guest speaker of choice for Starbucks and Microsoft and Marriott, I don't know about you guys, James, I'm not sure if you felt this way. Josh, I know I did. It was kind of a letdown because I was hoping you would say you were a Ponzi schemer or a captain of a boat, a small boat. But no, you work with big time companies. It turns out. When did you first figure out what you wanted to do professionally? Because I hear this from thousands of listeners per year. No exaggeration. They will tell me, Clay, I was in my truck driving around. We have one listener right now. I don't want to mention his name because I haven't got permission to mention his name on the air. But I talked to him, and he said, I was literally in my car hating my job for 20 consecutive years. I heard your show. It occurred to me that I wasn't happy with the direction I was going in my life. Now I'm self-employed. Now I'm in Tulsa at your workshop. I mean, you hear people having these moments. And my hope of this show is for somebody to have that moment right now. So when did you first figure out what you wanted to do professionally, Steve?
You know, I started in the ministry, and I loved the ministry. I did a college ministry that allowed me to travel the country and speak. But I always had kind of this bent towards business leadership topics.
Yeah.
And I ended up in between ministry opportunities, 4 months unemployed, and I'd never done any of the internal work that you hear a lot of people talk about, where I wrote out a purpose. I wrote out 5 values. You know, God was going to be my center. It was going to be about personal drive and leadership and kindness and having fun. I wrote out a code of honor, promises that I wanted to make and keep for myself. And the first one was that I would really, truly follow that passion of inspiring greatness in others. So in the middle of being unemployed, I actually formed my company 25 years ago, Steve Gutzler and Leadership Quest. And of course, it wasn't up and to the right, you know, as far as a career path. But I think this, as soon as I followed that true, authentic calling and passion without fear, things began to open up. People could sense that, hey, there's something different about you. In fact, when I speak, a lot of times they go, I was expecting the leadership content. I wasn't expecting you to be so vulnerable and open up your heart with a lot of the failures and setbacks that you've had. And so that was really it. Once I followed it, I began. I'm in a great area, Seattle, so I have a lot of friends and in great places, Starbucks, Microsoft, and all of that. So it's led I think through primarily relationships and just having these great relationships with world-class people.
Hey, and this might be a little off topic here, but you mentioned COVID, so you started this war. So I'm going to bring it up real quick. You started it, so here we go. Are you recording today's show? Are you currently standing in the Chaz zone to face down the fear? I mean, are you in the Antifa zone right now to record today's show? Where in Seattle are you?
I'm off into the suburbs, so we're probably 30 minutes, a 30-minute drive. But I've got to tell you, I moved to Seattle from Portland I was holding the USA Today featured article that the #1 most livable city was Seattle. And I was so excited to take my family here. And I would say for the better part of those 30 years, I've loved it. And to be honest with you, it's been shameful for me to see what's happening to our city that I love. Having a son that's in law enforcement and a lot of the things that are going on. So along with COVID, I mean, that's been stressful for me to repivot my career, but to see what's going on culturally. But I look at this book that we wrote, and I can't think of a more timely book because the message is shifting from worry, which I've been plagued by, insecurity, self-doubt, to inspiration, clarity, and confidence, a 90-day guide. So I'm in the middle of actually living my book, not just writing it, but literally trying to live it daily through all of these new realities that we're facing.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. Let's pretend that the folks out there were on the precipice. They were on the threshold of picking up your book, Lead with No Fear, your 90-day leader shift from worry, insecurity, and self-doubt to inspiration, clarity, and confidence. They're on the verge of buying this book or another regrettable burrito. You know, they're thinking about, should I buy the book that could change my life? Should I get a regrettable burrito? I just had a burrito. I'm not even hungry. I want 2 burritos. Sir, do you want to supersize that? Yes, I do want to supersize that. I do want to. Or do you want this book that could change your life? Somebody out there's in line right now, earbuds in, about ready to supersize something. We're saying, should you buy this book for $20 or so, or should you buy the regrettable burrito? There's a big pivot someone has to make here. Why, or maybe what is something in this book specifically that the readers will gain from this book that they can apply in their lives?
Well, first, it's built on a premise that I've believed, Clay, for 2 decades, which every significant change that occurs in our life is not a quantum leap. It's based upon a 3-degree shift, just a small shift in a decision, but in a strategic area. So we've identified 7 key shifts that leaders need to make. And these aren't quantum leaps, but if you make that 3-degree shift from victim to leader, and the very first chapter is foundational. I talk about going through the Great Recession and how that affected my self-talk and my inner dialogue and my vocabulary. And I was self-sabotaging myself. And it wasn't until I went on a river rafting trip, an experiential based, where I was the speaker. 40 burn victims from the Oregon State Burn Institute were brought in, burns 35 to 95% of their bodies. And I was there to camp with them.
Wow.
And be on this river trip with them and speak. They didn't know I was in a funk. They didn't know I was in the doldrums. And I got there and I witnessed these people that had these extraordinary burns and scars. And I got up the first night after we were on the river and I heard them just cheering each other on and the positivity and all of that. And I got up and my voice was shaking. I go, guys, you don't know this, but I was in a funk when I came here, and just witnessing you today on the river has inspired me. I've never been around burn victims.
Wow.
And a young man lifted his arm, a prosthetic limb. God is my witness. And he said, Mr. Gutzler, in all due respect, sir, we never refer to ourselves as victims. We are burn survivors. Burn survivors. And in that moment, Clay, I'm being totally honest, it was almost like this peel of pity and self-destruction and being a victim came off of me. And I made a determination that day that I would no longer think or speak like a victim. I wouldn't play the blame game. I wouldn't allow negativity. Now, we all make mistakes, right? We all have a blue day. But I made a choice that I was going to shift from victim to leader. I would speak, act, think like a victim. And speed forward to just 3 years ago, I'm on stage, one of the largest pharmaceutical conferences in the country, 5,000 people. The lead-off speaker is my mentor, John Maxwell. Day 2 is Magic Johnson. And the closeout speaker, day 3, is Steve Gutzler.
Wow.
And I'm backstage, and I'm looking up at this big screen while they're introducing me and playing a video. And I literally had this thought. Had I not changed my inner dialogue those previous years, I would not be here. And I would say to your listeners, it begins with not just your mindset, it begins with your inner dialogue. It is either going to sabotage you or it will begin to project out to what you want in life. And I work very hard with my thought life. I work very hard in the words that actually come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
The things that I want to really represent me. And because it leads, whatever we project comes back. So that first chapter alone would be worth the read. We give case studies. It's not just anecdotal stories about me or my co-author, Mike Acker, but we do a case study per chapter. So you're going to hear from CEOs, leading entrepreneurs, people that have made these shifts in life.
You know what we're going to do now? We're going to move into the lightning round. And the lightning round really is a round, Z, filled with a feeling of lightning.
Does it also come with thunder, or is it just lightning?
Got the energy of a Star Wars movie.
Yes.
It's got the danger of a bomb blast. It's the lightning round. Wow.
Whoa.
Look what I'm doing right there. See
Wow,
how I did that?
That just
That was
happened.
impressive. That was impressive for the kids out there. Okay, so now here we go. I'm going to ask a question, then it goes to Z, then it goes to Josh, then it goes to James, and it's going to come in fast questions, fast answers. We're really getting into the marrow of all things pertaining to how to lead with no fear. Here we go. Hypothetically, I am somebody listening right now, and I'm afraid to make sales calls. I am afraid to make sales calls. I want to make sales calls. I need to make sales calls, but I don't make sales calls. I organize my staplers. I organize my phone. I get my highlighter exactly how it needs to be. I'm mentally prepped to make the call, Z, and then I go, I can't do it.
Can't do it.
How do I, Steve, what do I need to say to get over the fear of dialing the phone?
The number one thing you need to do is it's called sales reluctance. And the way to break through sales reluctance is you need a new script. You need to create and literally write out a new script, one that you believe in, that you can speak confidently. The first person you have to convince is yourself. And so I would say to break through sales reluctance, get a new script, get it powerful, get it honed, and you have to convince yourself, number one, and then just go for it.
Z, Z.
You know what they say.
It's up. Now it's your turn.
You know what they
You
say.
know what they
Now
say.
it's your turn.
Well, you know what they say.
That's what they say. They say now it's your turn. What's your question? What's your hot question,
Steve.
for Steve Gutzler, the author of the new book here, folks? How to Lead with No Fear.
I love that, by the way. And what a time to be coming out with that. I mean, fear is gripping the world. Steve, Dr. Z here, and in your journey with overcoming fear, what was your personal biggest thing you had to overcome? Were you like afraid of heights or squirrels or COVID or your mom's pasta dish? I don't know. I mean,
Maybe your mom's pasta dish created COVID.
It did.
Whoa.
I thought it was the bat that ate the pasta dish. I'm
sorry.
confused. Okay. Did you?
No, I think it's points of insecurity, doubting your own self-worth or your own value, and the way to overcome that is to get very centered and focused on the craft that you are good at and really believing in your message. I remember the very first time I went in and pitched an emotional intelligence workshop for Microsoft. I'm in a boardroom with all these people that are obviously smarter than I am, but I convinced myself before I walked in that the gift that I have is worthy of their audience, and I have value to provide them. So again, the first person you have to convince is yourself. So I think it's been little nagging insecurities that I have overcome. But again, it goes back to that self-talk, the messages that you're speaking to yourself on a daily basis.
We've got 90
I was
seconds.
hoping for something sexier than that,
Well,
Steve.
no,
I was
Steve,
kind
well,
of
you're
maybe next time make something up.
He's afraid of his own body because it's more beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. He's afraid to look in the mirror because he may not.
His
he may not
publisher
take his
told-
eyes away from it.
His publisher said he's not allowed to say that he is
He can't
genuinely scared of his own body because it's so beautiful. So we had to.
He can't have any mirrors in the house because he'll just stop and just stare all day and not get anything
Nice.
done.
Now, Josh Wilson, I'm going to cue up scary music as you can ask our guest any question about fear.
Over the scary music?
Yeah, let me get it going.
Yeah,
It helps kind of create the.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh.
That's good. Wow. Wow.
Okay, so our show and a lot of our listeners are action item guys, and you said, John Maxwell being your mentor, so that's absolutely phenomenal. But what would you say for our listeners, Steve? Just one or a couple simple action items they can do to begin to overcome fear. Obviously, getting your book, number one, but number two, what would you recommend after that, Steve?
Gosh, what a great question. I think it's how you start your day. I really do. I believe the first hour, I know a lot of people propose that. A lot of people talk about it. It's kind of trendy, but I've been practicing that for probably, 7 to 10 years diligently. That first hour of the day is so important for me. 1995, I made a commitment to read a book a month. And I think that reading has literally translated into knowledge. So I would say between reading and how you start your day, it's going to be crucial.
Hey, real quick, I hate to do this, Z. I hate to do this to you, but
What?
Steve, a lot of times I will put a microphone on Dr. Zellner, who's an optometrist. He owns a bank. He's an esteemed business guy. Steve, you can imagine how offensive it would be if somebody put a microphone on you and
Or
didn't
in your
tell
brain.
you.
One time you put one, I think actually
I
in
teamed
my
up with
brain.
Elon Musk to insert a microphone into your brain. But this is audio I had. This is how Z starts his morning routine typically. This is Z here in the pool. I just want you to hear. This is how he starts his day. Let me cue it up. This is phenomenal. It might not be the right audio, Z. I think it's the right clip. Let me cue it up. here.
Sometimes you're on, sometimes you're
Come
not.
on, watch, sir. I cannot have this conversation right now.
The lifeguard's talking to him. The lifeguard's talking to Z. Z's in the...
Attention, swimmer! Attention, swimmer! You are too far. Return immediately.
Z, look at you. You're in the lifeguard's just berating you in the morning. I guess this
Brutal.
Is this how you like to start your day?
Slide back to the wall.
Z, do you like that adversity in the morning? Is
I
that,
know. That fires me up. It gives me, kind of gets my juices, kind of pumping,
He just hops in the pool early in the morning, breaks all the rules, and it's an unfortunate lifeguard has to yell at you.
It's like, yell at me. I know.
Unbelievable.
I know.
James, we have time for one more final question for the man, the myth, the legend, the best-selling author who just wrote the new book, How to Lead with No Fear. He's the speaker of choice for Spotify, Starbucks, Microsoft, Marriott, Cisco. He's doing okay. What questions would you have here for Steve Gutzler?
Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. My name is James DeCristofaro.
Hey, James.
Hi. I write a bit because I'm an attorney and I have to file stuff with court. And
What did you say you are?
I tried to say it fast. He's playing my theme song again. Here we go.
We love attorneys here.
No
we
cowbell
do.
this time.
We can't
No
get
cowbell.
enough.
All right, so I worked all weekend. Sometimes people have more creative times, like in the morning, afternoons, evening, before they go to sleep, when they wake up. My experience has been, when I have to write, I just pump the adrenaline and can crank it out. My personal creative time is in the morning. When do you write, like you mentioned John Maxwell, for instance? He wakes up and he writes every day. Do you wake up and write every day? Do you schedule it for?
What's your process, Steve?
Your process.
Yeah. So, definitely I'm a morning person. So I think of my day in two halves. My first half is creative. My next half is reactive. So I usually respond to people and do a lot of different things in the afternoon. My most creative hours is going to be in that first segment. I do a ritual hour for me where I do reading, I do some solitude, I do some thinking. I plan my 3 top work goals for the day. And then usually I get right into writing. Now, when I say writing, I'm going to be flying to Louisiana tomorrow for a big workshop in a couple days. So part of it might be prepping for that. But 10 years ago, I started writing a blog and I made a commitment that I would do it every week. I'd set this blog up every week, and I just did it. And it was like, a lot of them weren't great, but I would just crank it out and just force myself to do that practice. And grew my Twitter following to almost 150,000 followers and have a very active social platform based on that Tuesday blog post that comes out every Tuesday, and we put it out on our e-news. So I would say it's the practice of consistency, number one, and find out your creative work zones and go for it.
I can't.
There.
I have one bonus question. You mentioned you started off in ministry. You also mentioned that you have a big following on Twitter. Do you ever censor yourself?
I don't need to. No.
Okay.
I'm not going to be controversial. All of my stuff is going to be like right. So I'm pretty careful.
Okay.
Because I know it's always around my brand and that sort of thing. I'm not like commenting on anything really social or political.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, and I really do appreciate you being on the show, and for facing the fear of being on a B- podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we're a solid B-. We've worked really hard to get to a
C+,
3.7
most of the
rating
time.
on iTunes. I mean, really, 3.2 is a breakthrough for us.
It is.
And we got those 3.2 reviews, first off, with an overall score of 3.2. We were proud of that achievement. So, Steve, thank you for making the poor choices needed to be here with us.
Oh, man. It was great to be with you. Thank you so much.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Why does this
still keep happening to me. I don't know whose prayer I'm breaking into, but I'm breaking into somebody's prayer saying, Lord, why do I keep going through the same things over and over again? And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you change everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There's nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-clay, hey. Back, let me get them. Go get them then. Hurdle every obstacle, trying to do the impossible. Turned my whole life around, haters thought it was comical. Had to make some moves, didn't even seem logical. Quarterback to play, man, I had to call it audible. Drop back, stop that. Rearrange or switch it up. Only got one life to live, it's best that you gon' live it up. Failure ain't an option, ain't no way that I can give it up. Hey, knowledge, gon' pick it up. Nothing like your posse, look poppy, you cannot top me. They watch me and try to copy like Rocky, you cannot stop me. Hungrier than ever, we grinding all through the weather. We shining because we better get with us, we bout our cheddar. Once I change my mind, dog, trust me, ain't no going back. Coming for that top spot, I'm feeling like they owe me that. Time for us to level up, I feel like we've been holding back. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, Dad. Boom! Nothing is powerful as a change mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-clay, hey. Back, let me get them. Yeah. Came a long way from where I used to be. Home leave to see life the way I used to see it. Old habits die hard, but you gotta leave them. If they ain't riding like a Harley, then you don't need them. You're cheering and you're clapping, I don't need that. Fake friends treat them like Fat Joe, make them lean back. Excitement, no vision, makes you blind, I can see that. Anything I think up in my mind, I can achieve that. I can make a million if I want to. I'ma keep it real cause I want to. Other women try to holler, girl, I want you. And disrespecting wifey's what I won't do. Gon' do your dance, gon' do your dance. If you really wanna change, gotta have a plan. Even when they sit down, I'ma take a stand. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, man.
Beliefs become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show ya how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a lyrical miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm important, a Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers and tax. Even though that I'm wise, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go, here we go, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene.
Boom! Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Boom!
And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Hear the rest of T.D. Jakes' incredible, life-changing, and mind-altering sermon, Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind Today, by looking up T.D. Jakes on YouTube and typing in Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind. That is a lyrical miracle rap